What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 571 of the Smark Out Moments Smack Talk podcast hot tags of the week. We're going to break down all of the current events and rumors and gossip and news and TV recap stuff and everything else that we feel like talking about that happened in the world of pro wrestling these past few days. I'm Tony Mango, joined by Callum Wiggins.
For how long?
Yeah, we will see, depending on the internet situation. And Robert D. Felice.
Hi, everyone.
To see how long with his T-Mobile situation.
Yeah, we're having a day, everyone.
I'm hoping that I don't end up having any Spectrum issues later on. But if so, then we know that it's just the trifecta. But hopefully you are not having any kind of issues on your end when you're listening to us. Hopefully you're having a good day. Hopefully you enjoy this podcast. As always, drop your comments below. Tell us your thoughts on everything like that. Tell us your thoughts on how much you hate your ISP too while you're at it. You might as well, because we all do. And as we run along here with the hot tags, we want to know what you have to say, so keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind that if you want to support us in other ways outside of just listening to this and being subscribed and clicking that little like button and everything, then there are some monetary ways that you can incentivize us to do more content, or you can just keep the lights on and everything. And those are all under this marketplace that you can see on your screen on YouTube, if you are at least listening to this on YouTube. You got Redbubble and TeePublic for the merchandise options. And on the YouTube side of things, you also have a little thanks button. You got the join button, which should give you access to the same stuff as the Patreon, or if you are more in the Patreon side of things, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. You got Darkcasts, you got your Pick Your Poison tier. So if you checked out, for instance, the main event that we had earlier this week with the Time Machine Dream Team that we spent 2.5 hours on and didn't finish because it was just getting too bonkers, we finished it on the Darkcast. We definitively finished that and ended up with like a lot of really good team names and stuff, mostly based off of Rob. I got to really commend Rob on a lot of those. So if you want to hear an explanation of the other white meat and how they go up against, who was they were against
Lean and Mean.
Lean and Mean. Yeah.
Red Bottom Heels, courtesy of me, versus Blue in the Baby Faces, courtesy of Tony.
Yeah, there's a lot of wacky antics when it comes to that, so I definitely recommend that. And that is currently on the $5 tier, I think it is, maybe the $10 one. I forget if I set that setting the right way, but the options are there, and I think that this is one of the better ones that we've done. So check that out. And even if you are not able to do that, if you just hit the share button and pass this along, that is another great way for you to kind of help us grow this channel a little bit. And the more that we do that, the better we can bring you other things, the more upgrades we can bring you, the more podcasts in general. So keep that in mind. Anyway, let's get into some of these things here. And first things first, I want to do an update for the Champsgiving tournament that's going on here. We are moving on to a different round, because I keep doing those at like Friday morning. And we are currently on the third round, which is the final four. To break down what happened before, the $1 Million Championship defeated the WCW Championship. Cruiserweight title beat the Light Heavyweight title. The Hardcore title beat the ECW title. And the European title beat the NXT UK Heritage Cup, which means that our final four makes
a lot of sense.
The $1 Million Championship against the Cruiserweight Championship, and the Hardcore Championship against the European Championship. The four that I assumed was probably going to be the top four. So,
very proud of Champsgiving this year. You didn't go for, let's go for the ECW title all the way because I like ECW. I'm very proud of you.
Or the International Heavyweight Championship against the
martial arts.
I mean, the World Martial Arts thing would have been an interesting one too. That would have gotten my vote more than it got. But yeah, there's no Stone Cold Steve Austin option for people to just go. I mean, I probably could have put something like, hey, would you bring back the Smoking Skull belt? And then maybe people would have been a little bit weird on that one. But if you have an opinion of which retired championship you'd like to bring back, then go ahead and vote while you can. I will change that on probably Thursday night or so next week. And, we will settle on what our finals will be. $1 Million or Cruiserweight versus Hardcore or the European title. Check that out. You can find that on the sidebar on smarkoutmoment.com. You can find it on the homepage or just click on Champsgiving. There's like 20 different ways to find things on the website. if you can't find something by doing the search or the keywords or anything like that, then I don't know what to tell you. But that is one of those things out of the way. We got other topics to talk about here. We got a lot when it comes to Monday Night Raw, at the very least. But let's talk about a trademark here, because we'll get that out of the way. Question marks when it comes to this. The Young Bucks have trademarked the Wayward Sons. And I am assuming that it's just extra nicknames that they're giving themselves. Like, well, we got cast away from AEW for a hot minute, so we're the Wayward Sons of the Elite or something. If that's the case, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't see why you would need to give yourself an extra nickname on top of all that. But if they're going with like something else, then I have no idea what that would be. What do you guys think?
Jackson Riker.
Matt Jackson Riker? Nick Jackson Riker?
He's no longer forgotten, but he's wayward. He's all over the place.
Well, thankfully, it's the Young Bucks that have trademarked this and not the company.
Which makes that a little bit weirder, too, because then that kind of points in the direction of it's probably something directly related to them and not something that's...
Yeah, they're probably
like,
just calling themselves the Wayward Sons.
Yeah, it's merchandise. It's probably for like T-Public and stuff like that. T-Public Pro Wrestling Taste. With T-Public.
T-Public is our thing.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking that it could be is maybe they want to do like another like follow-up book or something.
Oh, they could, yeah.
Maybe instead of like BTE, they want to do a YouTube channel or a series or whatever, the Wayward Sons, where it's just 100% focused on them. Or maybe they want to turn this into like a like they would be like a video game or something, but like, you know, something that's like very specifically just controlled by them, and it's a narrative about themselves. So I mean, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a
control your narrative. We're back at Jackson Riker, I see.
Yeah, maybe that is. It's all working back to the.
Could be a documentary or something.
Yeah, you know, like that's where I could see this going a little bit more so than, you know, they're not going to go by the Young Bucks anymore. It's going to be the Wayward Sons, Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson or whatever. But I'm leaning more towards it's just an extra nickname.
I'd be a fan of them not calling themselves the Young Bucks as they get older. I always feel like that's weird. That's a weird spot we put ourselves in. You know, when you're like the Heartbreak Kid,
yeah.
Sexy boy Shawn Michaels, who's balding and nearly 60.
That's true. So, I mean, that's one thing. This is another thing that I think is kind of off the wall. And you might as well transfer one topic to the other one here. Chris Jericho had said that he wants to make a Painmaker film. And here's the story that it apparently is going to be if it does get made, which if it gets made, this is gloriously bad. About an intergalactic former serial killer.
Yes.
Who travels the galaxy to hunt down other serial killers on different planets.
Absolutely.
So, Lobo.
No, Painmaker.
He wants to be Lobo. He has like that sort of, you know, the spikes and that aesthetic. And
Painmaker.
Intergalactic former serial killer who is a bounty hunter for other planets, having murderers and everything. He's totally, I want to be Lobo. And that's been a lot of Lobo talk this week, because now Jason Momoa is kind of making everybody think for some reason that he's going to be both Aquaman continuing going forward and Lobo in like a future DC project with James Gunn and everything. So there's been all this hubbub about Lobo. And this would be exactly the type of movie that I would think would be just awful across the board. But I would obviously see it opening night, and that would be some watch along type thing. And this would be a go-to WTF type of film. Is there any interest you guys have in the idea of taking this character and making it that sort of thing? Because I never imagined that would have been it.
Painmaker is an awesome name when you're fighting Kazuchika Okada, the Rainmaker. Mm-hmm. I don't know why this is becoming this thing where he's like, I'm the Painmaker, and this is this vicious side of me. No, like, what are we doing? By the way, I don't know if you guys watched The Masked Singer, but Chris Jericho shouldn't be doing that either.
Hey, that's not Chris Jericho. That could be anybody singing exactly the
that could be Let me tell you something. That could not be anybody, but ugh.
But the Painmaker's a lame gimmick. It's a lame character. it was fine for the Okada thing, and he had that kind of general aesthetic for a little while in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and yeah, it was fine for like a short run thing. But now it doesn't he should just be Chris Jericho. That's all you need to be. He always has his little gimmicks and his characters, and right now he's in the Jericho Appreciation Society and he's the Ocho. So he has that, so he doesn't need to have
What is the Ocho? Tell me more about this Ocho. How do you define the Ocho?
He's an 8-time world champion, so he's the Ocho.
Yeah, he used to be the Siete.
The shame Tony Schiavone didn't get the chance to call that.
No, but I believe the Ring of Honor World Championship is his 8th world title, isn't it? Is it not?
I mean, that's the whole point.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So he's decided to take on the Spanish moniker for this one.
Because for some reason there's a connection between that and the Spanish side of things. Yeah, right.
Well, I guess he wrestled in Mexico for a while. I mean, that's where kind of Lionheart kind of started, the Cause de Leon. So
maybe he wanted to trademark the 8, and then they were just like, all right, we can't give you that one. He's like, all right, fine, fucking Ocho. Let me go down different translations until I can get one that I can trademark.
I mean, maybe he's just a big fan of the ESPN channel. Who knows? The Ocho. He got dodgeball.
It's funny to think that, though, that this is a project that he wants to get in and dabble in, where it's like, yeah, we can make a movie about this or whatever, because that's clearly what the character is, right? And they're like, what? No, that's kind of like saying, okay, we're going to take a character like, say, the New Day, and we're going to make it that the power of positivity means because they were from another fucking planet or whatever.
Now, hold on a minute. Because you and I did watch the New Day try to combat the Undertaker with the power of positivity.
That, though, it's weird, makes more sense than this Painmaker, intergalactic, Lobo, bounty hunter, serial killer. The fact that they said serial killer, too, makes it even funnier, because it's not... I guess that's supposed to be like the one little thing that they're trying to differentiate from Lobo. But Lobo's whole thing is he is a murderer, and he goes throughout the galaxy as a bounty hunter. And they're like, okay, the same thing, but serial killer. So, you're going to really tie that to the character and make it like horrendous like that? That's, I don't know.
I think maybe there's some sort of, again, metaphorical element for the wrestling side of things, where Jericho is kind of known for jumping from, well, at least more recently, times of jumping to promotion and taking on the champions and wanting to be the top guy in every place. And so this is kind of a intergalactic metaphorical equivalent of him going to different promotions, and instead of taking on serial killers, in reality it's him beating world champions.
So what you're saying is we want Painmaker stars in Space Forbidden Door?
No, what I'm saying is Masked Singer, guys.
There you go.
Oh man, if this all leads to the Forbidden Door equivalent of Avengers Endgame, where it's Painmaker against Axiom and Rey Mysterio and who else we got? Luchasaurus. And yeah, anybody? Battle Cat comes back.
It's the Just Us League again.
Yeah. If there ever gets made, this movie, you will hear plenty about it on Fanboys and Smark Out Moment, I guarantee you. But leave a comment below and tell us if you have anything in mind of, like, realistically, if you were to see any of these characters in AEW or WWE right now get turned into a movie, who would you end up liking on there? I'm curious if anybody has any, like, I don't expect somebody to be like, oh man, I really would want to see a movie based off of, say, I don't know, Robert Roode. But maybe somebody's got a pitch of a movie for, like, the Elias character of, like, some kind of
Wayward Sons.
Star is Born type thing. I don't know. Wayward Sons.
At this point, I would really just like to see whatever the fuck Bray Wyatt wants to do in a cinematic experience and not a wrestling ring.
So basically, that WrestleMania match with John Cena.
I love that. So yeah.
Or do you want to see like a Zoolander-ish thing with Maximum Male Models, or
they're doing that?
You know, the Viking Raiders are doing a Viking thing. I don't know, fucking know. Point is, leave a comment because I'm curious, and let's get into some of these other things that we got going on here. We got plenty of stuff from Monday Night Raw to talk about. We've got something from NXT. We got some AEW stuff, but I think overall there's less to talk about with AEW. So let's bounce over to the Dynamite stuff. We're going to go out of order a little bit here. Not a whole lot that happened this week that I felt was like game changing, but a few things here and there. I mean, we got good promo from the MJF side of things. We got a good promo from Moxley. We got another kind of faulty promo thing from Saraya.
Oh, we need to talk about that in more depth.
Yeah. Let's talk about that one.
Okay. So Britt Baker comes out initially for this face-to-face that they were supposed to have last week between Saraya and Britt Baker. And this time it's been mediated by Tony Schiavone because that's Britt Baker's friend. And in this promo segment, it's paid... Oh, Saraya. God, find myself doing that occasionally. Saraya finally reveals that she has been medically cleared, so she will be having a match with Britt Baker at Full Gear. And then Britt cuts a great promo, as Britt Baker typically does, basically saying that this is not Saraya's house; it's her house that she built since day one, and that she's not, and that nobody wants to see superstars come into this place anymore and claim that they're like doing the company a favor. Basically, all that stuff to that extent, and she absolutely cuts Saraya down. And Saraya responds in a very emotional, it's a very emotional, heartfelt promo. But in the same breath, she also basically says that Britt can't cut it as a superstar, wouldn't be able to cut it as a superstar, and that AEW should almost be grateful that she's there. And I don't think that was the intention, but that's how it came across, and it made Saraya a heel. So now they're going into this match with Full Gear, where I think that, especially in front of a very hardcore audience that usually comes to the AEW pay-per-views, that I can realistically see them doing a double turn, or having to do a double turn.
So I didn't get that vibe of like, you can't cut it as a superstar. I thought that she was leaning on her own experience, which is, she has been through a lot of shit. Call it like it is. She has been through so much. My issue with this, as good as I thought both of them were in terms of passion, we've heard this
a million times.
So much.
That's the one story that everybody keeps telling. Yeah.
And specifically with Britt, it's like Britt is either champion versus Thunder Rosa or Challenger of the Month, or she's doing the, okay, I guess I gotta put this company on my back again and face another superstar reject. And in this case, it works out because it's Paige, and it's someone who started the women's revolution, and I think she had a little bit to give back. I do agree with what you're saying, that at the end of the day, the AEW audience will always prefer Baker or any original to any WWE cast-off. But because it's Saraya's first match back, I don't think they're going to have to do a double turn.
So I got the impression of the superstar thing as a real bad idea, because to me that kind of fit a little bit of that Jericho Appreciation Society element of it. Like, I don't think it was necessarily like a full on, holy crap, she's going to have to turn now, but I don't think it's a good strategy to have somebody who's supposed to be the babyface here, all things considered, specifically in the AEW side of things, say you wouldn't be able to go to WWE where that's a bigger deal, you know, because then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with AEW and being like, okay, well, we're feuding in the minor leagues, but, and then you're like, no, AEW is supposed to be the equivalent, the alternative, the better version in some ways. You should always try to position yourself as the better company. And when they do this, you used to be WWE and we're AEW and we're going to go against each other and which is the better company thing, I think that gets lost in translation, because ultimately, even though there's plenty of people that are hyped into this whole, there's got to be a feud between them and you can't support both companies and you can't criticize one without being blind to the other one and all that stuff. Fans want to see people against people. They don't want to see backstage company argument things as much. So I'm not interested in Britt Baker versus Saraya if your main hook to it is Baker couldn't go to WWE and I left WWE and I am here now. I want to know why I should care about these two fighting. Because so far, all it's been is Saraya popped up and Baker's there. And then they just kind of bicker. Like, there's no... Saraya was the special guest referee and Baker led to, you know, some kind of weird thing and she ended up costing Baker the match and then now they have an issue with each other.
The idea is supposed to be, you know, Britt Baker is a spoiled brat and Saraya is coming back as a legend to now put AEW on the map, which is, we said when she cut her first promo, an issue that we had with that it came across very much like, I'm here now, and we're just going to acknowledge that AEW kind of sucks when it comes to booking women, but because I'm here now, that's going to change.
Which is also another thing that, hey, didn't Athena kind of do a little bit of that? And didn't...
Ruby Soho did it too.
Isn't Madison Rain supposed to be there to specifically help things? And isn't Tony Storm
you know, that's
like...
just not true.
But I mean, it's we're going to bring her in to, you know, to boost this. And then you have Ruby Soho and you got...
Well, I guess the difference being that those other people, minus Madison, came in with the intention of, finally, because wrestling is spotlighted, I will be spotlighted. Whereas with Saraya, it's very much, I'm here now, and because I have the history of building up the women's division, I'm going to put this place on the map.
I also, whether it's WWE or AEW, I am way, way, way past sick of, I'm the one who started the revolution being the phrase that's been used for like over a decade at this point. The Bella Twins are the ones that started it. No, Emma started it. No, Paige started it. No, it was AJ Lee. No, it was actually the Four Horsewomen. Well, it wasn't the Horsewomen. It was only Charlotte. Well, you know, who else was wrestling hero? Actually, Natty's the one that started it because she was whatever. And Gail Kim was the one that started it with Awesome Kong. And then, no, I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Medusa starting it with, and it's like, you can't all start something, you know? So this feud was kind of a mess. And I think that, like, this isn't the most important thing in the world, but it is something just to, if you're going to pile on at the very least, I'll use that phrasing because it is, I'm basically piling on here. Every single one of these promos has had some kind of a botch to it. Every week. This week it was, I've worked the Tokyo Dome. And then she's like, Sumo Hall, actually, or whatever. It's like, yeah, can we get one of these to work right? I mean, at least one.
She's clearly not used to cutting unscripted promos.
Right.
And so she's trying to get back into the habit of doing it. I don't think she wants to be someone who, like, said, like, maybe they even suggested to her, again, I don't know, like, jack shit in that regards, but maybe they have suggested to her, okay, maybe work on a script. It's like, no, I want to try and do it from the heart because it sounds more powerful that way. And then she just will occasionally stumble over her words. And so, yeah, that's obviously problematic. I'd rather... maybe this is just me. I'd rather a passionate promo with mistakes in it than a robotic promo that was said word for word perfectly.
That's true. Yeah, I agree on that one.
So I guess it's positive in that regard. But obviously the ideal is it's a passionate promo where everything goes off perfectly right. So
right, and what they say is good and it's interesting, and then like firing off on all cylinders rather than.
I mean, that's what you get with Moxley every week. That's what you get with MJF every week. It's like
they killed
people
it.
that are really great. Yeah, she's not as good a promo as they are.
Yeah,
but there's nothing wrong with being a less polished promo than those two, because those are two of the best promos in wrestling today. So
now I'm gonna pile on and then double back to a compliment, but I do want to say that I'm getting a little worried here because it's been a while since she was wrestling consistently, because even before the retirement, she had like a year and a half off. And I personally am a little bit at the point where I'm like, I remember her wrestling being good in 2014. I don't know if I'm gonna feel that way in 2022.
The benchmark's been moved.
Yeah,
for sure.
But to say that and then double back to a compliment, the 3 matches for the women on this pay-per-view have all been decently built. So that is a great step. That is a step in the right direction. I will be
putting a whole bunch of thumbs down when we talk next week about Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm and such. But was it this week or was it last week? I'm blanking if I forgot to mention it last time around, or if it just happened 2 days ago and I've already lost track, where Jeff Jarrett cut the promo where he's talking about Strowman.
Oh, this week.
That was this week. Okay, I thought so. Where he's like, was it the Banana Nose Factory or something is making a guy who's not a real giant in red tights.
Yeah, yep. So it was tying along the line to saying like, we're not some guy, but they're talking about Satnam Singh and saying he's not a guy, a wannabe giant from the Banana Nose Factory that wears red skinny jeans to the ring.
That's funny.
And to be fair, I mean, I know that it's another instance of AEW just taking shots at WWE wrestlers, but I will also say that WWE wrestler also took shots at his own co-worker.
That's where I was going to get to, where it's like, you know what? Like, I don't like AEW constantly having to make its identity, we're the fuck WWE group, because that always just reeks of desperation. But at the same time, turnabout's fair play a little bit when Strowman is needlessly making enemies by being like, fuck all the flippy floppy guys and I'm better than that. You're poking people for no reason. You deserve to get a little bit of it back. Even if I agree with some of the idea of like, it is kind of ridiculous that sometimes people act like if you're not doing that style that you end up, you can't wrestle a good match, and only people like the Young Bucks can wrestle and not somebody like a Big Show or whatever. But then again, there's better ways to phrase that. And, Mustafa Ali, for instance, had a great response. I thought it was awesome. Can you tell me how to get fired or whatever? I thought that was great.
So there's absolutely nothing wrong with being proud of the style of wrestling that you work and being proud of a match that you had on that show. Because realistically, again, I haven't really gone back and watched Crown Jewel, but from all accounts, it appears that the match between Omos and Braun Strowman exceeded expectations to a degree.
Yeah, they had the best possible match they could have had.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, there's more than fine to be happy about it and be proud of the fact that you showed a great giant, well, by those accounts, a good standard of a giant versus giant match. To then basically say that that's better, or that this is the real thing that people are interested in, and not a load of, flippy-do guys. I've had to see that somebody wrote on Twitter, I can't obviously remember who it was, or just some person on Twitter, but they said wrestling fans are the only people that seem to get angry at athletes for being athletes. And that sort of thing is like, just like the idea of being super athletic and being able to do some really cool acrobatic stuff in the ring is something that some people look at and just go like, what the fuck are you doing that for? Just like, why don't you just, plod around the ring for 5 minutes, do a few clotheslines and then call it a day? And there's some people that work like that. And at the end of the day, if you can do, if you can get over by doing less, if you can get over by doing less, then by all means do it. But if you want to actually have a very like a spectacle driven match, not so much just get all the stars, but to have like a really entertaining spectacle and show off your athleticism, then there's nothing wrong with that either. Basically, wrestling can be anything you want it to be.
And the much more diplomatic way of saying that, which wouldn't have caused, I think, any kind of issues outside of a complete jerk taking it the wrong way, which plenty of people do. But if he would have just said something like, see, even big guys can have great matches. We don't have to be doing hurricanranas. And then it's like, okay, he's proud of himself.
Yeah, I would even take out the line about the hurricanranas because like there's no reason for you to be like, and fuck you, buddy.
Well, that's not really a fuck you. That's more of just, we don't have to do that style. It could still be good.
Yeah, but it's 2022 and people will take it. Like, I mean, fuck you.
People will take my tweet that I put out the other day where I said, if you hear the word sandwich, what do you picture? People will take that and get offended if it, the way that they are. Leave a comment.
Cheese.
What do you, was it?
Ham and cheese.
Ham and cheese? What about you, Callum? You hear the word sandwich, what do you picture in your head?
Oh, just a ham sandwich.
Yeah, there you go.
It's funny. The only responses I've gotten so far are basically just like lunch meat stuff instead of anybody saying like, I picture like a hoagie or like a hamburger or something. Huh. Anyway, that's snack talk for this.
It's just interesting that it's totally fine to have confidence and be proud of those things, as we said. But it seems like it's quite interesting that the guy who is talking super loudly about this stuff is a guy who, up to a couple of weeks ago, didn't have a job, or didn't have a job in the company that fired him like 18 months ago. So yeah, it's good to see that he's making friends early though.
Some shaky ground that I'm sure somebody backstage should be like, dude, don't rock the boat. Don't get into some kind of problems. Keep your mouth shut a little bit. What else happened at AEW that we could talk about?
Sting and Darby Allin against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Am I right? Who's excited?
We'll talk about that next week.
We got so Samoa Joe turned on Wardlow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was like, I know that there's something I'm forgetting about other than just like confirmation of Nyla Rose versus Cargill or whatever. But the Wardlow thing, I mean, I guess maybe they're doing a triple threat.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction they're going in. I mean, I get it. I get this being the direction they took because essentially Wardlow has been taking his eye off the ball because he's focused on Powerhouse Hobbs. And so he's basically been casting Joe aside, and Wardlow's been casting aspersions about the fact that he wants to be the greatest champion, he wants to win all titles, and obviously Joe is holding a title. And so that pertains, if he wants to win every championship and be the most dominant force in the company, he's got to go through Samoa Joe. And Joe is smart enough to strike first. So he took out Wardlow. And I think that they could have a three-way title unification match at Full Gear.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They have to unify the belts. If you're going to do three-way, you got to unify the belts.
I don't think this necessarily signals a Joe heel turn. It just means that he's sick of Wardlow.
Well, it sounded to me like
fit into a tweener role.
Like Joe got triggered when Wardlow said, "Yeah, I want every belt." He looked and said, "Wait, I have a belt. No, I need to hit you first," and just that's what he did. So I'm all for it. Those three guys are awesome. Wardlow desperately needs to not be in a one-on-one scenario. He needs to be in a competitive scenario, but I guess they're not feeling a one-on-one. I am so ready for Joe in singles action. And I like Hobbs. I think Hobbs should win, quite frankly. So yeah, good things all around.
I'm glad War Joe is done too.
Stop saying that. Everybody needs to stop saying War Joe. It's not a word. That's not a thing. I don't know why they made it a thing.
That's why I'm so glad that it's done, because I hate that kind of crap. That Brangelina, despite the fact that I've got that urge to merge all the time, I think that unless you've got an actual really good twist on it, if you just take part of one name and part of another one and you're just like, okay, well, Ethan Page had a match with Eddie Kingston. We're going to team those two up, though, and it's going to be Pageston. Like, no, that's stupid. You got to make it something that's worthwhile. And War Joe is not.
War Joe felt
good.
So forced.
Yeah, it was terrible. So, Show Miz, for instance, is like, okay, well, it's Show Miz. It's not the best, but I see where you're going there. Jericho, you're kind of stretching it a little bit there.
Jericho is still better than Wardlow.
But it's like there's different levels of that. And Wardlow was stupid from the start. So not only do I want to see Wardlow against Samoa Joe, so that's already good, but it ends that. So it's like, yay, two good things, And Powerhouse Hobbs is in the mix too. And I've always thought that Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs are kind of on the same trajectory of like, yeah, they could be the opposites of the same coin, kind of. So we'll see if they announce anything official. In the meantime, that's a thumbs up. And some other things happen, but nothing really all that.
One small thing, and again, this isn't anything that was ground shaking or anything, but it pertains to a tweet a tweet or an interview from a WWE employee, let's say. And there was a match between FTR and the Acclaimed versus the Gun Club and Swerve and Our Glory. And during this match, I can't remember. I think it was Colton. It might have been Austin. I can't remember. But they started doing the flip flop and fly punches, and essentially mimicking Road Dogg in the ring. And then he goes for the final punch on Dax, and Dax says "fuck you," puts him in a sharpshooter. And I don't know whether he tapped out immediately from that or he ended up tapping out from that. But
he did not.
Yeah, but the whole basis of that stems from the recent interview from Road Dogg saying that Bret Hart wasn't that great. Well, wasn't that great of a wrestler.
Well, and then like the most roundabout thing where he goes,
I'm being a bit facetious with it, but
yeah, I know, but like the roundabout way was Road Dogg just wants to pat himself on the back by going, yeah, Bret Hart's the man, but I was a better entertainer, so suck it. Like, it didn't need to happen.
Yeah, that the distinction of I'm a better sports entertainer rather than a wrestler.
I don't know why that's become such a thing, especially in the last 12 months. But it's like, stop it. Sports entertainment is wrestling. Can we stop doing this thing where we pretend like I'm going to use the word wrestler and that means it's something so much more impactful in sports entertainment. I will say Road Dogg. I saw an article from Fightful that said, Road Dogg, I'm sorry I shared my opinion on Bret Hart, which I just think is the funniest headline.
That's a very... I'm sorry you were offended. Type
like that's very like I regret this blowback that I got. So here's your apology. Bret Hart is a better sports entertainer too because Bret Hart, his music, his look, his promos are awesome, and that was just a silly thing for Road Dogg to say.
And I mean, there's an argument that people can say like, well, he's better on the mic. Or you could say you enjoyed the New Age Outlaws better or whatever. I mean, I would disagree, but we all have our different opinions. But it's just kind of one of those arguments. It's kind of silly to continue to have and all. But
it's just the again, don't want to belabor the point too much, but it's the fact that he said that sports entertainer and that's where that makes the money or something to that effect. So it's
because
you drew nothing. You drew no money in your entire career. You were a perennial mid-card tag team guy. You drew $0. So don't talk about the guy who was actually a world champion and actually brought houses in. Admittedly, world champion at a time where the company was very much on the downward trajectory. But yeah, he actually at some point probably people turned up to a show to see Bret Hart. Maybe a couple of junkies showed up every now and again to see Road Dogg. But look at basically any other show that he was ever on outside of WWE, and you'll know he didn't draw anything.
And I don't want to get too deep into this, but there is a unique thing that I always see in this case in particular, when you're talking New Gen versus Attitude, where everybody will crap on Bret and Shawn and those guys say, well, they didn't really draw, but the Attitude Era guys, as a unit, as a collective, it's always, oh my God, we were all so over. We were all firing on cylinders. Like, how does 100% of that credit not go to Austin or Rock? But when it comes to Bret and Shawn and even Nash, it's, oh no, 100% of that fault is on the champion.
Yeah, it is weird. I think that a lot of people don't want to like the new generation era. So they just look for some excuses for some of that stuff too.
Oh, there's a lot of good reason not to like the new generation.
And there is.
But then again, there's also a lot of shit in the Attitude Era, and there's a lot of shit in...
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, basically every wrestling era, people only remember the stuff that's good. Or,
right.
Well, I'll just say a lot of people remember the stuff that's good. But then again, like, you two grew up watching the new generation era for the most part, and so you're more prone to be defensive of it. I started watching in the SmackDowns of like 2002 to 2004. And so that's the period that I'm super defensive about, even though I know there was a lot of shit there because me and Rob reviewed it for the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look back on the Attitude Era and you go, like, man, it was so good because, like, Austin and DX and all, and then you look at an episode of Raw and you go, ooh, a lot of that sucked. And then for somebody like me that I'm like, man, I really remember having a whole lot of fun with, like, 1996. And then I watch an episode of Raw, or I watch, like, In Your House, and I'm like, man, you know what? This kind of sucked. Like, everybody's got to play that gray area thing. Nobody wants to do that anymore these days. It's always just black and white extreme arguments. But that was another thing that happened this week, though. Yeah, that whole Bret Hart versus Road Dogg situation. Ric Flair also throwing some stuff out there about, like, fuck JBL, essentially.
Yeah, what was that? So Ric Flair, who's been back in the WWE intro for months now, some reason tweeted, "Yeah, I'm back, baby. Thank you, WWE." And then JBL comes on screen, and he's just like, "Yeah, I guess the bullying program doesn't apply to Bradshaw, Jason Roberts," he meant Justin, and all these other people would disagree. And it's like, Rick, it's not like you were some patron saint. What are you doing attacking Bradshaw?
I saw one comment that I thought was a very biting response. Somebody tweeted back, "Let's ask Teddy Long who's better."
There's a lot of points there.
I was like, oh, that cuts kind of deep. So, I mean, if you want to follow the Ric Flair type stuff, he's got something to say all the time. Let's bounce out of AEW and go, before we get to WWE, let's go to a rarity on the hot tags and talk NWA. Let's talk about this Nick Aldis situation.
God. This must be the first time we've spoken about it since the first episode of Power.
It's
been a something to that effect.
It's been a little bit of a while since an NWA topic came across, yeah.
So this whole Nick Aldis situation it's so bizarre because he for the longest time is the centerpiece of NWA. He was the world champion for the longest time. He's obviously no longer the world champion, but he's still like the draw, the name. He's one of the biggest people in the company. And now he's suspended indefinitely. And he won't be appearing on recent shows, and he's essentially handed in a notice. So we'll probably be on the market very soon. And
January 1st.
January 1st. So so starting next year, he'll be. I'm sure there'll be plenty of. Well, I say that he's an interesting case. I mean, Rob, you probably know better about the situation before we actually start to speculate about what the future holds. So, what is the current situation?
So, Nick Aldis did hand in his notice to the NWA. He did a great interview with Sam Roberts that I would suggest, if you're a fan of Aldis in any way, you go listen to. He talks about not identifying with what the brand became. Essentially says the brand was better when Billy Corgan was more hands-off. Not identifying with characters like Gags the Gimp. Yes, Tony, that's real. Not identifying with a lot of the social distancing match that they did. Basically saying, this wasn't what I wanted the NWA to be, but I understand it's a business, so I'm going to leave now so they can conduct business the way they see fit. I will say this. Having listened to that Sam Roberts interview, I can tell you, Nick Aldis wants to go to WWE. He was talking about how he was in Cardiff the weekend of Clash at the Castle, and he's like, it hurts to be that close to the show and not be on it. He said he could draw money with Gunther, he can draw money with McIntyre. I think he wants WWE, but we'll see if that actually comes to fruition.
I am hoping that he pops up in the Royal Rumble.
That's what I would do if I had any bit of power there.
Power with 3 R's?
No, power with 1 R because we're out of the NWA.
It would be quite a stretch for Triple H to sign someone who previously didn't work for the company a couple of months ago.
You got to take some chances, right?
Yeah, but he's an interesting case because he obviously he's a great talker, and he has a very, I don't say methodical wrestling style, but he has a very traditional wrestling style, very conventional, classic, kind of old school British wrestling. He can do that stuff really well. He's not really a sports entertainer, if you want to call that. He definitely doesn't do any of the flippy stuff that Braun Strowman hates. And
he's not super young.
Yeah, exactly. That's also another part of it as well. But then again, age really isn't a factor in wrestling anymore, it feels like.
There's Finn Balor. How is Finn Balor?
Early 40s.
You can always make the argument of LA Knight just made it to the main roster, and
exactly. Age is becoming less and less factor. It's more I think I've spoken about this in the past. It's more about your TV age. That's why Dolph Ziggler feels like he's older than everybody else in the entire roster because he's just been there forever. But I think that you choose someone like Aldis, you obviously give him good mic time. I don't know what else you really do with him, but yeah, I'm sure he could have some decent feuds with some people on the roster. It'd be interesting to see him lock up with Cody again after their short run fighting over the NWA Championship. But yeah, it'd be odd to see him in an environment outside of the TV studio. It'd be interesting to see him in an environment with more than 200 fans in attendance.
That's something he talked about as well. He said, listen, let's not beat around the bush here. It takes a certain amount of courage to put on a 3-piece suit and act like you're the man when you know you're going to go wrestle in a rec center in front of 200 people. And I think he's very ready for that big time experience. I think he would accept AEW as well, but I think he's very ready for, I'm here and what I'm doing is going to be seen by millions of people.
I want to be in WWE for real so I could check that off my thing and say I was a WWE superstar. I wrestled at WrestleMania at some point, And
I think he deserves it. I really do.
Now, I didn't follow a whole lot of the specific wording of, I didn't listen to the podcast or anything, the interview or anything. I've just kind of read a few articles here and there of Billy Corgan's response and Trevor Murdoch's response and all. But as an outsider, this is some perspective that I think kind of can get a little bit lost in translation sometimes. I look at NWA and I go, okay, well, Nick Aldis seemed like he was kind of interesting when they were doing this revival. And I watched a couple episodes of Power and I figured that it probably wasn't necessarily for me, the product. It's too old school. It's too hokey, a little too no holds barred without the cringe factor that makes it funny, Yeah. And I stopped watching it. And then they've not done absolutely anything that I've heard of. And I mean this across the board, from the women's division, the all women's show, the tag team division, the Matt Cardona stuff, every aspect of NWA. There hasn't been a single thing that's made me even consider tuning back in, because I didn't like Trevor Murdoch when he was a tag team guy on Monday Night Raw 15 years ago. Why would I be interested in him as a world champion right now of a brand that has even less going for it than it did when I thought that it wasn't good enough to keep my attention? And when Nick Aldis is sort of saying, I think it kind of sucks now, I don't really want to be a part of this, my gut reaction as a fan is to go, well, no shit. You know what I mean? And I understand when people say, Murdoch had said something like, I don't think that that's really good that you should do that, and you shouldn't crap on the product, and you should just sort of leave and whatever. I agree with that, because it does kind of seem like the guy himself that you've been working with is sort of like, hey, Nick, come on, man, don't fucking push us down and make it seem like you are in this other pedestal. then it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you guys should do a better job a little bit. So,
but what I would say to that is when you're Nick Aldis and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into the NWA, I think you have a bit of a right to say, hey, I don't identify with this. It's like if Johnny or Adam said, hey, I don't identify with NXT 2.0, so I'm leaving.
Right. Yeah. He's had more of an investment in it than most people have. So it's more personal to him and it means more to him. And he's been in an executive type role where he's actually part of the creative side of things. So he's not approaching it from just, the guy that runs the ring ropes and double checks that is the one that's bitching and complaining about it. And he, has new influence. I'm kind of more on Aldis' side in this more than anything else. And I do kind of want to see him pop up in the Royal Rumble, if not just, even if it's just a one thing like that, just to be like, that's cool. But I'd like to see him in WWE. I'd like to see him potentially have like a faction or something. I'd like to see him against a few different people down the line. I don't really know exactly who would I book him up against for WrestleMania or something. I don't know about that. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far, but NWA actually making it onto the hot tags is a rarity. So I figured we'd talk about the NWA thing like that. Let's go over to WWE though. We got plenty to talk about here. I am going to save Monday Night Raw for last. I'm going to do some predictions here for tonight. We got the New Day against the Usos for the record, essentially, of the tag team titles. You guys think that there's any chance New Day wins? I don't think so.
No, unless that injury to Jey Uso was really bad, but he wrestled on Monday, so he's probably fine.
Yeah, I'd say it's unlikely that we're going to see the titles change hands.
We got a 6-pack challenge to determine Ronda Rousey's new challenger. It's going to be Xia Li, Lacey Evans, Sonya Deville, Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez, and Liv Morgan. So this is a thing.
Listen, say what you will about some of the booking of the AEW women's stuff, and we'll talk about that when we get into Full Gear. This is dire straits time for this SmackDown women's division because they've got 6 women here that are fighting for the title opportunity. I don't believe in any of them, and I don't think any of them are worth a damn in terms of what their characters bring. Again, as always, talking about the characters, not the individuals behind them. But right. From character perspective, not one of them has an iota of a chance of beating Ronda Rousey outside of Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan just
she just had her 4 matches with her or whatever. Yeah. So
all the rest of them just lose matches.
Yeah, or they didn't even show up at all. Like Xia Li pops up once every 3 months, it seems.
She has to lose, Tony.
Yeah.
The only one that consistently wins is Raquel Rodriguez, and it's like if you're going to go straight into Raquel and Ronda, you're not going to have Ronda lose to Raquel. Yeah, anyway, you'd have to build her up a little bit more. But no, Sonya loses all the time. Xia loses all the time. Shotzi loses pretty often. Lacey's not even been there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the likelihood is, I'd say, none of these matches interest me. So
no,
yeah, it's big thumbs down. And if I had to give a prediction, I would just guess that Shotzi's going to win.
That is also my prediction because I'm going to go with Raquel's not going to win because Raquel might be able to give Ronda a little bit of a fight, and maybe they want to save that for a Royal Rumble. I don't know. But I'm going with Shotzi because it's unexpected, and Shotzi under Triple H can at least put up more of a fight than she would have 2 months ago.
And
even though it's a foregone conclusion. And she has a tank. I mean, okay, look, if Shotzi comes at Ronda with a tank, I'm slightly more interested to see if she'll shoot her with the tank,
They haven't said when this match is happening.
I'm assuming Survivor Series or the week before or the SmackDown before because they like to do that a lot.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm getting at is with it being Ronda Rousey and with it being SmackDown in particular, they are very heavy into this idea that SmackDown should have title matches and then not necessarily do them on the pay-per-views. The Intercontinental title spent like 2 years where it was just on SmackDown. And I don't think that Survivor Series War Games is going to have the War Games matches with Roman Reigns involved and also have Ronda Rousey. I think that they're kind of looking at that as like, if we have one or the other, then we're fine. So I expect this to be a SmackDown match, which means the biggest possible match that you could do as far as like character wise is still the Liv Morgan thing, even though it's repeating the same shit that we've seen before. They've already had an Extreme Rules match even, so it's not like,
what kind of match do you put them in?
Liv Morgan's gotten this new edge and now she's going to do that. Like, it's really just copy and paste the same crap all over again. That's technically the biggest match you can put on there, but the Raquel thing they've done a couple times, and maybe they do want to do something like that. I think it's overall going to be Shotzi, so that they can just have it be, well, the title's on the line. Don't you want to watch that episode of SmackDown? And then she just beats Shotzi, because it's not going to be Sonya. It's, unless you turn her babyface, which is not what I'm expecting. It's not going to be a heel Lacey Evans, and it's not going to be a heel Xia Li. I'm kind of curious why Emma's not involved here.
But she had a match last week, or 2 weeks ago, Ronda, and lost. So,
but I mean, at least in the worth to potentially get a challenge.
There is always the chance that someone gets taken out here.
Yeah.
Well, that's
replaced by,
because I would have thought that they would have paired off, like Xia Li and Emma had that little spat, so it's like, okay, well, that's one babyface and one heel. Then you got Liv Morgan and Sonya, that's a babyface and a heel. Then, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you take Raquel or Shotzi out for that. But if it ultimately doesn't matter anyway, it's Ronda Rousey's not losing that title until WrestleMania, and then we're just killing time. And if there's any part of the WWE roster right now that is begging for that draft to happen, it's the SmackDown Women's Division.
Just merge the belts.
They might as well.
I'm not saying I was wrong about Roman. I'll say it. I was wrong. But they're also not doing anything with these divided titles. So go ahead and just merge the belts so you can do the one match you care about and then split them all up when you have a plan. Because right now you ain't got no plan.
Normally around this time of the year, I write an article that we've been doing with like the Raw vs. SmackDown brand warfare stuff. I usually write up who has the better champions. And I was going to write it up the other day, and I was going to go, well, I could just do a comparison thing anyway and just go, hey, normally I write this article, and what if they would have done it, what would I have done? And then I'm like, I can't even fucking write that up, because it's like, all right, the world champions. Well, there's only one. Okay, the tag champions. Well, there's only one. Okay, well, like the 24/7 title. Okay, there's nothing there. We'll talk about that.
I will say the only way this match could potentially interest me is if, instead of there actually being a winner, the end of the match is Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey just come in and beat the shit out of everyone.
I do see that being a potential.
That could be fun. I would be down for them to say there's some kind of a draw, and you know what? The next match is going to be Ronda Rousey and the 6 of them in a 7-something challenge. So, what would you call that? 7 people against each other? This is a 6-pack challenge, the Fatal 5-Way, or whatever.
The thing came into my mind is 7 Up, so I don't know. Like
the Siete. There we go.
So I'm hesitant to say this, but I'm talking to you guys, so just know that I'm being fun when I say this. Is this the part where Sasha comes back?
Nah.
Dude, like, because none of these women have a fucking chance. But if you just say, hey, we're doing Sasha and Ronda, people will get up for that because it's, oh shit, Sasha's back. And it's clear she's back in the ring. She's working with Hoovy. She's coming around to coming back again. It's just a matter of when and where.
I think that there's more of a chance that we get Naomi and Sasha popping up as the 2 extra members of Belair's team on Raw.
You could have that. But then what would Dana Brooke do?
Fuck all, apparently, according to what they know Raw. Jesus. That's... Gotta talk about that. Another thing that's happening, though, on SmackDown tonight is they're starting the World Cup thing.
Yes.
Which we didn't really get a chance to talk about, but they've now clarified one of the things that was confusing to me before, when I was like, why are you having Shinsuke Nakamura and Santos Escobar and you are not specifying that this is one of the World Cup matches? Because
no, it is, isn't it?
It is now. That is a first round match for that. And those are actually the 2 that, when I was thinking about this ahead of time, I was like, I would give it to either Nakamura or Escobar. And one of them's going to get knocked out already. So I'm like, damn, that would have been potentially my finals. But we've got a lot of options here. They could have.
So do you want the competitors?
I have a whole list of them.
Center. Okay, cool.
Oh wait, no. Is there a list of all of the 8 or whatever it is?
Yeah. PW Insider.
Okay.
As of 12 p.m. Eastern time, here are the planned competitors for the SmackDown World Cup. Everybody's favorite Braun Strowman, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Santos Escobar, Jinder Mahal, Butch, Ricochet, and Rey Mysterio.
Not where I was thinking for some of those picks, because there were plenty of different people that you could have picked to go and represent the United States with, LA Knight, Madcap Moss, etc., etc. But you also have Ludwig Kaiser, you got Giovanni Vinci for Germany and Italy, you've got Kofi Kingston for Ghana, you got Drew McIntyre for Scotland, you got, if Sheamus would end up coming back, he's Ireland. I'm assuming that they're taking Jinder Mahal as more India, not Canada. You got Mansoor, Rich Holland, Solo Sikoa, Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo. They had plenty of different people that they could pick from, and then the laundry list of Americans. But I would want, out of that group, Sami Zayn to win, if it's not going to be Santos Escobar.
So here's the thing. Sami Zayn is untouchable. And I feel like he needs to win because he's Sami Zayn and he's in the bloodline right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also just like to see either Santos and Butch or Santos and Rey.
I would be totally down for a scenario where it's like, now that I'm looking at it, is a bracket out or is it just the names?
Just the names.
Okay, so we need to figure out who would go up against the bloodline, and I'm assuming that Strowman is probably going to be one of them. I'm thinking Strowman against Zayn at some point, and Strowman maybe beats Zayn, and then that leads to him being a part of the bloodline match thing, and they do a whole thing with that, and then Zayn can cross Strowman for the second round or something. I don't know. I think Rey Mysterio against Santos Escobar in the finals is probably your best case scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you give it to Escobar.
Decent list, though.
I mean, it's a group of mostly 8 people that are great.
6 names and Jinder and Braun, which is funny because those are the 2 of the 3 that are world champions.
If you had to pick between this, you had any favorites or predictions, or you'd go in that direction, Callum?
I think the most interesting from a match perspective, just for the visual, would be Braun. Not that I think that would be the best match, but just to put Gunther against another giant would be interesting.
Oh, that is right, because the winner gets... Never mind, that changes me.
Yeah, the winner gets an intergalactic
The winner gets a...
match.
Oh.
The winner gets an IC title match.
Oh, I didn't see that was a part of... yeah, okay, now I'm seeing that there. That does change things then.
So that's why I don't think it'd be Sammy, because you don't want to put Sammy against Gunther.
And it's not going to be Escobar then.
The only reason you put Sammy against Gunther is because you're using that to have Roman take out Gunther, so Sami Zayn can win the Intercontinental title, and then you're going to Gunther versus Roman for the Universal Championship.
This is brilliant.
But that's a potential approach you could take. That's why... but I think that you're not going to do Ray because you've just had Ray. You're not going to do Ricochet because he's the guy that lost the Intercontinental title in the first place.
Certainly not going to be Jinder Mahal.
It's Butch. They're going to do Pete Dunne versus Walter.
No, I mean, I'd be totally fine with Pete Dunne won it and took on Walter because that match is great. We haven't seen it for years, so
that's brilliant. I hope that's what they do because that's it.
I hope so. Cool. I think that's unlikely. I think that they're going to go Braun.
That IC title thing changes it for sure for me. I thought it was just sentimental.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that because they mentioned it during a Monday Night Raw commercial, and you don't listen to the sound, so I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I skip those things every time I can. All right, well then those are predictions for World Cup. Let's bounce over to NXT. Talk about some of those things. One of them being Shawn Michaels is going to announce something related to NXT Deadline. That's as vague as they've got. It's like he'll make an announcement regarding Deadline. Rob's theory is very much that they're bringing back the scramble match.
Yep. I think that they are bringing back championship scrambles because the vignette for Deadline continuously stops at the 5-minute mark. So every time it hits 5, the screen would flash. So I think that's going to be the return of the scramble.
I do not think that the scramble is going to return, but I do think that they're going to do some sort of gauntlet.
So what would the gauntlet be for the North American title?
I think it's going to be for the world. Well, like the
world.
NXT. Like, I think because you got
the world title is Braun versus Von Wagner, right?
No, that's happening on just NXT.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be Braun, Breaker, Von Wagner, JD McDonough, Apollo Crews, and maybe Grayson Waller.
Oh, shit. I mean, the guys in it, like, they're fine, but like, I don't see why that would call for a title match. First of all, I don't want to see JD McDonough in another world championship match. He's already had 2 this year, so I think he can pretty much go to the back of the line. Like, why are we just stalling on just doing Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes? Why is Carmelo Hayes still so obsessed with the North American title? Why doesn't he move up at this point?
That is a great question, and
he still thinks it's the A championship. That's why.
I guess so.
But there is an argument to be made. Tony, this was one of your ideas, that maybe the Deadline is they're just gonna say, "Hey, champion versus champion."
Maybe.
Or what about this? How about a Deadline? We do a 5-way ladder match for every championship.
You know, I hear you.
It would be interesting if, I mean, they kind of need a mid-card title, just outright. They need a mid-card title in NXT. The North American title has been really serviceable, so I wouldn't want them to get rid of the mid-card title, but it would be interesting if this would have been the type of thing where Carmelo Hayes would have still been champion, and after all this A champion talk, that it would have been champion versus champion. If you think you're the A champion, you have to put your belt on the line. We're going to do that title unification thing like what happened with Keith Lee. But then that would require him just beating Wesley again and then bouncing back around to that. And I don't think that has anything to do with the countdown clock either. Or the count up clock, whatever it was. It stopped at 25. That's a little bit like...
Because the scramble was 25 minutes long. The intervals of 5. That's why I didn't just randomly go, I know scramble. Like, I was watching the clock and seeing what it was doing.
I want to make some sort of a scrambled egg joke. I can't think of it though. Something about it being over easy. But other things that happened on NXT, Joe Gacy beat Cameron Grimes in one of the most obvious type scenarios where it's like, I wonder if Ava Rain's going to interfere. And then she does. Nathan Frazier is injured, and Axiom was there just like, hey, pal, we're not a tag team yet, but we kind of are. And JD McDonough is like, meh, you suck. So that was the thing. Scripts interrupted again. Rob's theory is still that it's Reggie.
Yeah, it's Reggie.
I still don't really know. Listen
to the promo, because I know you're skipping it. Listen to the promo. The person's voice comes through.
Let's clarify. I'm not skipping it because I'm doing live coverage. I'm just not paying attention.
You're skipping?
Because I can't fast forward. If I could fast forward, I would fast forward some of them. Elektra Lopez beats Sol Ruckus. Sol Ruckus very much already in that range of, right, well, we got her, but we need an enhancement talent. That's all she's probably going to be, I guess. And Indy Hartwell went after Elektra Lopez after that. Later on, did the thing that she talked to Roxanne Perez and said, basically, I'm realizing I have to be a bitch. It's, a character we've seen a million times. So, she'll turn heel.
I mean, I don't know why. Your whole family's on Monday Night Raw. I just don't understand why you just don't go over to Raw. It's like there's some barrier that exists that you can't just interact with these people.
Here's one of those dumb segments that it's like, why are we still doing this? They did a not backstage. Well, I mean, it's backstage because it's a sound set thing. They're making a feud about Fallon Henley and Kiana James because Kiana James wants to buy Fallon Henley's family bar and build an apartment complex.
Okay, you know what? That's
so
funny.
Stupid.
No, that's funny. Fuck it. It works for me because it's funny.
Welcome to Women of Wrestling Unleashed. That's weird. There's a whole gimmick on that stupid pay-per-view that me and Rob watched about how one of the female characters wants to buy one of the characters' ranches. And this is basically that story just pulled into NXT 20 years later.
I think there's something to be said at this point that perhaps, I know that Shawn Michaels' home territory was Southwest Championship Wrestling, but maybe he got a little bit of that Von Erich stuff, and Von Erich stuff was very much, hey, let's feud over a dog, like.
You even hear arguments from like Bruce Pritchard talking about, why wouldn't there be a feud over the one guy stole the other guy's jacket?
Yeah. So,
is this a thing where in the South it's just sort of like, we're going to feud over like, you parked in my parking space, or like...
Listen, I have no problem with having one-off matches based on really stupid innocuous shit like that. Like someone bumped into someone in the hallway and they just want to have a match about it. That's totally fine. Just like a one-off match, and it's just like you just want to have like some element of story behind it. Go right ahead. I don't know why you need to have like 2 or 3 weeks of build-up around about a match between Fallon Henley and Kiana James.
Well, you know what? I used to crack peanuts at the end of the bar with my grandfather or something, and I know they're trying to give them more character work to just make them more ready for like the main roster where they can talk and all, but God, the acting for these NXT episodes is so bad that it's worse than like B-movie slasher acting a lot of the time.
The whole payoff of the story is going to be that Brooks Jensen will get off with with Kiana James' assistant.
Giovanna Borneo, or I think is her name.
Yeah.
G something, whatever.
Yeah.
That it's just they're gonna go backstage and it's gonna be the two of them hooking up or something.
Yeah, and he's lost his virginity. And everyone is super excited.
This story.
It's definitely up for Rob's creativity spike.
Listen, I think
Robert, you all the people that watch NXT.
I might be. Listen, I have to cover it. Unlike Tony, I do pay attention. So, yeah, I might be the only person.
We got matches that really there's nothing to talk about, like Stax beat Hank Walker, whatever. I thought it was interesting that they did the thing with Duke Hudson throwing in the towel and costing Andre Chase the match with Charlie Dempsey. I thought that was nice.
Hale is becoming one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, she's so hyped.
She's just so like, yes, Chase, you. I love this, Mr. Chase. Thank you. She's the best.
Cora Jade's feud with Wendy Chu now is apparently about Wendy Chu can never make a friend.
Why are we feuding over friendship? Can Cora Jade challenge for the fucking title? Like,
guess not.
What are we doing?
Because it's got to be Alba Fire and Mandy Rose a million times.
Well, now we mention that. Callum and Tony, when's the last time you spent any money at a mall, let alone $4,000, according to JC Jane?
I've never spent $4,000 on one purchase outside of like my wedding and such.
Yeah, I don't feel I've ever spent that amount of money on anything outside of, well, my university bills and stuff like that. But yeah. I don't spend that all at once.
Like Invisalign treatment. Like that's basically it. But then again, I'm the same type of person who I'm like arguably my favorite t-shirt I've had since I was a sophomore in high school.
That's very you. That's the most you thing.
I'm like, I fucking love this t-shirt. It's so good. It's getting a little bit frayed on the top, and I'm like, no, you gotta hang in there. Like, they don't make you anymore. I can't find you at Sears. But yeah, that's a thing. I just want them to move on from that. I want
She's gonna win the belt next week in a match that is for some reason a last woman standing. Like, we didn't just see that. That's weird to me.
Maybe that's their way of not having Mandy take a pin, or I'm hoping it's their way of having Alba Fire.
We have to protect Mandy Rose.
Well, I'm hoping it's the opposite. I'm hoping that it's Alba Fire loses, and
she's not losing.
Hope so.
She's probably going to lose.
I think she's winning. I think eventually you get to Roxanne, but I think it's time for Mandy to drop that belt.
Oh, it's been time for Mandy to drop the belt since about like 2 weeks after she won it, but it's still going to carry on because
they're not going to have. You can't really think that they want her to break a record.
Rob, how many times have you said that they're not going to have Mandy Rose win the title, retain the title, and she retains the title?
Guys, come on, I'm trying here.
Eventually, he's going to get it right.
Yeah.
I believe in what is right. That's why I believe that Bayley should have won on Saturday. I believe that Mandy Rose needs to lose next week. I have faith in something. I don't know what, but I have faith.
I don't know what Shawn Michaels has done in his time as NXT booker that gives you any kind of faith that the right decision will be made.
It's blind faith.
Yeah. He's some of his stuff is quite kooky and funny and interesting that he's done with the NXT stuff, and it's definitely a more interesting show than it was a year ago. But he's not a good booker. I'd put it that way. He's fine.
Yeah, who's a good booker?
Don't.
Kevin Nash. No, Booker T.
Stevie Ray.
David Kemp and Brutus Creed had their 5-minute thing. Brutus Creed did the smart thing, which was, you know what? I don't care if I fucking lose this match. I'm just going to wail on him with a steel chair. That's good booking. I like that.
Absolutely. That was my favorite thing. He just said, hey, of course I'm going to beat the shit out of you. You tried to take me out. You tried to take my brother out. By the way, where is Roderick Strong?
Hospital.
Where is Roddy, and why is he only appearing in these B-movie sketches?
Well, that's what NXT is, a B-movie sketch.
But why isn't Roddy wrestling? Like, how the fuck did we go from, the Undisputed Era is thriving, to none of them are doing anything? What happened?
And it's Roderick Strong in the ring.
Yeah, I kind of want him to just come back, and even if he's not in part of Diamond Mine at all, or if he's a part of, like, moves up to the main roster or something, just kind of like, hey, here's some matches. Fucking put him up, like, on SmackDown and go, all right, 1 week we're going to have Roderick Strong against, who's on there? That'd be good. Fucking Butch. Yeah, like, you know, we've seen it before, but it's like, yeah, let's do that. You know,
Butch, Rey Mysterio, Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, pretty much anybody.
So fuck Braun Strowman, and Roddy can represent America in the World Cup. I like what we're thinking here.
What?
Roderick Strong against Santos Escobar. That's good. You know.
I mean, why? Also, just going back to the World Cup, why are we talking about the fact that both Ricochet and Braun Strowman are both representing USA in this?
Well, Ray should be representing California. Well, you know, that's where he was built from at this point, right?
Is Braun Strowman representing the land of the monsters?
Yeah.
Well, he is the monster of all monsters.
He's representing the land of the giants. He's I guess it's just that sort of like America gets double.
Well, no, Mexico got double too.
Oh yeah, Rey Mysterio's either American or Mexican. So,
right.
So yeah.
They just didn't want to put like
Why are we calling this a World Cup? Except for the fact that there is a World Cup going on.
That's
because Fox is hosting the World Cup and they want a WWE tie-in.
Yeah.
Why doesn't again, just that question of why doesn't WWE take advantage of the fact that they have loads of people from different nationalities?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, do you want to see Boa wrestle on SmackDown?
No, but I want to see. I mean, Kofi's in the tag title match, but next week he could be in the tournament.
Right. That's what I said. Like, he could represent Ghana in there. You do have, the chance that Sheamus can return and represent Ireland. You do have Drew McIntyre for Scotland. Giovanni Vinci for Italy.
Yeah, you could grab some people from NXT as well that are part of it, or grab someone over from Raw that's a different nationality. I mean, you got like Apollo Crews for Nigeria.
If you wanted to have a squash match, have Mansoor for Saudi Arabia.
You're not allowed to squash them. They're paying you a lot of money.
Instead, they'll just have him not realize that a camera's in front of him. Terrible segments.
But yeah, so that's more of an instance just like they're calling it a World Cup because there's a World Cup going on and it's not actually a World Cup.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing that happened on NXT is the Katana Chance and Caden Carter match where they retained the titles over Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark, and it ended with Zoe Stark turning on Nikita Lyons.
This was good. A good turn. Because it's not like it's been subtle or anything. It's been very obvious that this is the direction they were going to go into. But just Zoe Stark is super frustrated about the fact that she's had these title opportunities and she's kept coming up short, and she's taking out her frustrations on her tag team partner. So it's perfectly logical storytelling.
Like clockwork. You got to do the partner turns on the other partner every 3 months.
Almost like Shawn Michaels wasn't a good tag team guy.
So let's go to Monday Night Raw. Talk about these 3 kind of big things that's going on here. Otis, no, just kidding.
Oh, you know what? No.
Talk about the rest of the show as well.
You know what, though? Let's talk about Otis, because Otis recently revealed on Instagram that he struggles with dyslexia, and he just finished his first cover-to-cover book, and I think that's cool and should be spotlighted.
Yeah, hats off, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's, Baron Corbin beats Cedric Alexander. He's now prime Cedric Alexander, and then he loses.
In the same vein, the gold standard, Shelton Benjamin, was defeated by Austin Theory. And that might be the last person who can say they were defeated by Austin Theory for a while.
I don't know if this is one of the bigger ones, but can we talk about Johnny Gargano for a bit?
Yeah.
The whole thing with the Miz?
Yeah, because I haven't been on the hot tags for the last couple of weeks. I need to mention this. Why is nobody bringing up the fact that Johnny Gargano is being booked as if Vince McMahon is booking him? Since that he's being treated like a small nerd. And that's his gimmick. His gimmick is that, like, the whole segments he's been doing recently. I mean, I don't know. Your mileage may vary. I think they're dreadfully unfunny. And he's being, like, super dorky. I know that was kind of his thing in NXT, especially with the whole Way stuff. But then he was a heel, so it was good for him to be a dorky character. Now he's supposed to be a babyface, and he's so unlikably uncool. And this whole Miz stuff as well. This whole Dexter Lumis thing. How long has Dexter Lumis and the Miz been? They've been feuding since SummerSlam, right?
Like 4 months.
Yeah, they've been feuding since SummerSlam, and it's getting weirder and weirder. This whole story doesn't make any sense. That he's paying off Dexter Lumis to attack him, so he could still be in the spotlight. It's like, when has the Miz never had segments on Raw or anything like that, or been able to just host an episode of Miz TV when he wants to? Why does he need to have someone attacking him to be notable? He's got a fucking reality show on the same network.
And a really hot wife. And I mean,
and he's a former 2-time world champion and
he's the only 2-time Grand Slam champion.
Right. He's won the Intercontinental title like 9 times or something. And whoever wrote this feud is really one of those types of writers where I'm like, you're throwing shit at the wall, man. You're not actually approaching this with you might as well have wrote for the fucking sequel trilogy for Star Wars. You're just kind of like, I don't know, then fucking this is our explanation. We're this far away from a somehow Palpatine returned line when it comes to this. Last Jedi sucked.
It comes across at very like old school Vince booking, in the sense that the only difference is now that they've gotten to this point where things have just been happening week to week with any real like consequence or explanation, and now they've basically just gone to the writer that's been coming up with this segment and said, okay, now explain why all this has happened. We've gone, what you never said that was part of the plan. That wasn't how we took things with the old guy. And now he's basically having to cram all this stuff in and trying to explain how all this stuff, which makes zero sense and has zero thread to it, and that's what's happening. And it's just, it's, again, a lot of things have improved. Not going to take it away, but there is still a lot of shit on this show. And this is the prime example of that. Well, one of the prime examples. We're going to be talking about other stuff that's prime examples of it as well. But
Cedric Alexander is a prime example. I beat you to it.
It is kind of making me feel like maybe their idea was that they wanted to do Dexter and Johnny against Tommaso and Miz, and that they've been sort of just like, fuck, what do we do in the meantime? And they each week they're like, what if this is the twist? And, instead of them going, how long is Tommaso going to be out? Okay, we need 5 weeks worth of stuff. Let's do this instead. And then
I think that's what it is. This is, again, wishful thinking on my behalf, but I think that Tommaso was obviously supposed to be a big part of this, whether he was in on it with Miz and Johnny and Dexter, but I think Tommaso is the key here, and that's why they've kind of scrambled. I will say, because of how things worked with the other guy, at least they came up with something. It's garbage. I'm not excusing it. At least they thought of an end game. But to your point about Johnny being booked like a nerd, they do this shit with the Miz all the time too. They think it's so funny that the Miz is a reality guy, and they can't, no matter what the fuck he's done for the last decade plus, they can't get over, we're going to make you think your shit doesn't stink because you're a reality guy. They have never gotten over that with the Miz. It's been 15 years of him in WWE, and they're just like, ha, you're a reality show nerd. And the difference being, Johnny, even though this is how Vince would book him, I think he's okay with it because he openly embraces being an absolute dork. Whereas I think that the Miz, I don't think the Miz is as much of a jackass as he is on TV. At least you'd hope.
I mean, if anybody is different from their character, I hope it's Dexter.
Well,
yeah.
And by that I mean that he is not an artist. So you mentioned garbage. We'll talk about that second to last. Let's talk about instead this one. Judgment Day finally has some opposition, and their big grand scheme idea of the OC is finally, for some reason, I don't fucking understand that. Again, it's whatever. That's the rationale is fuck you, shut up. Which is the OC didn't have a single woman on the roster that was willing to help them against the Rhea Ripley problem. But hey, Mia Yim's back, and she's going to do that. And I am interested in Mia Yim coming back. I think that if you position her in a good enough way that she could be like, she's the bad chick that's going to, whoop some ass, and she's going to take the fight to Rhea Ripley. Okay, cool. It's much better than we've seen with her on the main roster as it is, because that, what was her name? Was it Reckoning? I think? Or was that
nope,
Mercedes?
She was Reckoning.
What was Mercedes' name?
Retaliation.
Fucking garbage. I hate that stupid angle. But the Retribution stuff where Mia Yim faked a seizure and that's all she did on the main roster. This is already better for her. But I do kind of look at that and go, okay, well, Survivor Series is coming up. What is the end game here? Because if they do a mixed tag elimination, that is going to be weird as all hell, because you can't do that and not have it be awkward when you have just the two women against each other and then the three men against each other.
Why does that bother you so much?
Because the elimination side of it, what are you going to do? You're going to have Mia Yim is taken out, and then Rhea Ripley is still there and fighting all the guys, and then we're going to do that, or you keep it with Mia Yim, and I don't know how to book that doesn't come across a little bit awkward. So
I like the idea of the 4-on-4, and I'll say why. It's Survivor Series. It gets more traditional Survivor Series action on the card. It's storyline based. It allows, for just something different. I have no interest in seeing, well, we're going to put Mia and Rhea in War Games, and then it's like, well, then they didn't fucking need to do the whole faction thing because we put them in War Games. I like the idea of the 4-on-4. And I think that that's where they need to go with it.
I'm starting to think that they're going to do the 4-on-4, but it's not going to be elimination. And it's just going to be a mixed tag team match, and that's it.
I'm even okay with that.
But hey, Rhea Ripley's got somebody now. Mia Yim's back. I like that.
Mia Yim's a good signing. Yeah, she's a great wrestler, so that's a good person to have back in your books. they're a bit late in terms of they probably could have used her to counteract Rhea Ripley's threat at the pay-per-view. Maybe they would have, won the match instead of waiting until the night afterwards. But
Dominic Costa in the match at Clash, and then join them the next night. So they have no logic in that way.
So I think that it's nice for Rhea to have someone that she can go up against. I personally thought that, we know that the Women's War Games match again, we'll talk slightly about garbage stuff associated with that in a little bit, but we know the Women's War Games match of Survivor Series is going to be 5-on-5.
Right.
And so we know that's Damage Control and Nikki Cross against, at the moment, a team of Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, with other partners to be named. I could see a situation where the extra woman on the first extra woman on the babyface Survivor Series team is Candice LeRae, because obviously she got taken out, so that would make sense. And then I could see them slot both Mia Yim and Rhea Ripley into this, because the only reason I'm doing that, maybe it's too much of a stretch, but the only reason I'm assuming that is because they had a backstage segment on this episode of Raw between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, where Rhea just basically just says champ and whatever. And my mindset is, we've seen this before, but Rhea Ripley goes into War Games in a match with Bianca Belair, beats Bianca Belair, is the one to pin Bianca Belair, and that's how you transition into those two feuding over the women's title.
That's definitely something that I think makes a lot of sense, and it's there's so many baby faces that could go into that team that's really the question mark more than anything is, do you go Dana? Do you go Candice? Do you go Sasha and Naomi? Do you go Mia? Do you go, there's a lot there.
Listen, that is where my mind went with it too. But I just feel like it makes the OC Judgment Day aspect of it so silly. And also,
because it tells the guys to just fuck off with the feud. They're not involved in that.
And also, I might be playing the role of Callum here, but I saw so many fucking people on social media go, "Oh my god, Bianca and Rhea." Really? You waited months. I don't care if she wasn't cleared. You waited months until you finally decided to pull the trigger on, hey, Rhea still wants to fight Bianca, just moments after Rhea finally gets an opponent. That's garbage.
That is
absolute garbage. Because you could have done that shit whenever you wanted to, and you wait until Rhea finally has an opponent so you can slot Mia Yim on the back burner already. I don't like that.
Well, Mia Yim definitely got put on the back burner for this, because not only was her return overshadowed, but if you're talking about
everything
garbage, let's talk about Nikki Cross beats Dana Brooke for the 24/7 championship. Dana Brooke, mind you, who has held this title not consistently for what seems like 2 fucking years, but she's basically done that because they keep doing all those house show changes and they're non-canon title changes and all this crap because nobody cared. But Dana Brooke's been the focal point, the way that they do the 24/7 title, which is we're going to have it revolve around one person for a block of time. She has recently said things like, I want that to transition into the Women's Intercontinental Championship and all these other things. And a lot of criticism being with like the commentary team crapping on her and Seth Rollins crapping on her and everybody being like, wow, you could beat Dana Brooke and like, fuck Dana Brooke and all. I feel so bad for her. Because then she just loses her championship here to Nikki Cross in what is essentially a squash match. All for it to culminate in Nikki Cross throws the championship away. We're retiring the title, but she doesn't even properly throw the championship away. She botches putting it in the garbage can, which is so symbolic of the 24/7 title.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. It's perfect.
This title was so bad from quite literally the moment that they unveiled it. When Mick Foley pulls that title out of the bag and the audience collectively goes, because it's a fucking ugly championship with that green belt, and we're in the era of the side plates, and they've got nothing printed on the side of it. They didn't even print the fucking 24/7 text on that. They never printed a side plate thing. It's a solid gold block of nothing. And then the title changes hands in a million different ways that nobody gives a shit about. This belt cannot even be properly thrown in the garbage correctly. It has to be a failure on that end. And it's hilarious because Bayley's reaction is very much like, I can't laugh.
To me, Bayley looked like she's like, do I pick it up and throw it out myself? Is the moment gone? What are we doing here? And then you look at Dakota and she's like, you missed. And just great, because first of all, WWE is a production company that could have easily just shot this a couple times and then, aired the one that works. I know it's a live show, but it's not like they haven't done this before. I thought this was great. I thought everything about this was fantastic. Nikki Cross is a badass. I don't know why everybody's suddenly on the poor Dana Brooke train. Dana Brooke had a solid spot for like a year and a half as part of this 24/7 thing, and it's over now, and we need to move on from that belt. That belt is now in the trash.
It's a mercy killing for that belt.
Yeah, I'd like to see them do something that's, I talk about this in the Triple Threat on smark@moment.com, that's, kind of a specialty title, but it wasn't this, because this was just a fucking joke. So I loved this, and I'm glad the belt is done, because now it's one less wacky thing you have to focus on. Dana Brooke was elevated by this belt. She will forever be linked to this belt. R-Truth, poor guy's hurt, will forever be linked to the 24/7 championship. But it was time to kill it, and I think they got the job done.
I can't say I disagree with the idea of getting rid of the 24/7 championship just because it was a joke title that nobody seemed to really care about. I mean, Dana Brooke hasn't even been on TV since Hunter really took over, or not into any extended period of time. And the only time that title was ever been defended was just on house shows where Dana would lose the title and then win it straight back. So I understand the reason why they've decided to permanently get rid of it. There's probably a better way that they could have done it. Maybe just have Dana holding the title, go up to Bianca Belair, says, I'm a champion and I want to be a double champion. So I'll put my title on the line against your one just for an opportunity at it, and have Bianca win, merge the titles, and then you're done. So then she gets a title opportunity. Maybe she gets like 5-10 minutes with Bianca, gets to look like good for a little while, and then loses it in a competitive match, rather than just, Nikki takes the title off of her straight away and then just drops it off her shoulder. It's like she's not even trying to trash it. It just falls off her shoulder while she's in a trance. And so I guess, it's not exactly a dignified end for the title, but then again, that title probably didn't deserve a dignified one.
I really wish, and I've seen other people pitch the same thing, so I'm sure a lot of other people are in the same boat as I am. Apologies for the siren noises. I wish R-Truth wasn't injured right now, and that this segment could have ended with him picking up the belt and running away. Because he was the main person around this belt. And for it to end with Nikki Cross throwing it in the trash, or trying to throw it in the trash and failing, and R-Truth doesn't get his baby back, it's kind of a shame. Guess how many title changes we've had, official versus unofficial? Let's just see if you guys know offhand.
Official, I'll say 125. Unofficial, maybe 40.
I'd say official 196, and unofficial I'll go up to like 210.
Fucking Callum nailed 196.
196. I swear I have nothing up right now. I'm not.
What do you do? What is it that you do for a living?
You're super close with the unofficial one because the unofficial total is 205. You said 210.
Fuck. Count the.
I knew it'd be. I heard your number and thought it's got to be much higher than that because R-Truth won it like 56, 60 times, something like that. So
yeah, I guess that's
like
true.
That 60 title changes on his own back. He's probably won it more than that even.
And, 53, but 54 if you count one of the unofficial ones with like the Joseph Average thing or something.
Okay, so yeah, so that's like a quarter of the reigns anyway, and then there were just loads of other people that were just winning it back and forth. So yeah, I just thought, okay, it's gonna be close to 200. I don't know what's made me say 196 of all numbers, but I was just like, I was originally going to say 198, and then it just dropped back to. That was weird.
Quite the party trick you got there.
I know that's not. And now I'll name all of them in reverse chronological.
Yeah, I mean, R-Truth has the most combined days, the most combined recognized days, the most number of reigns, and then Dana Brooke for the most part, because the only other person who beats Dana Brooke as far as number of wins is Akira Tozawa, and that's only because one of them is one of the unofficial ones, but he only held it for like 87, 89 days. Dana Brooks got it for 335. But this title, if you look at the list of everything, I mean, you got Gobbledygooker and you got Tucker and a couple referees, and Santa Claus and EC3 and Doug Flutie and Marshmallow and all this. They could have done something, and they perpetually didn't. Over the course of May 20th, 2019 is when this belt was created. 3 years worth of this championship, and there might have been like 8 times that it was funny. Like, I still think that R-Truth pinning Jinder Mahal when he's sleeping on the plane to Saudi Arabia is probably the best one.
Oh, I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind is R-Truth rolling up Rockstar Spud on his marital wet bed.
There's that. There's this did give something that's never going to happen again, the first ever pregnant champion. Because Mary Kanellis.
Yeah.
So then,
that's right.
So it's like, it's almost the unofficial 2 people were holding the belt at the same time. And we also got FTR were holding the belt at the same time in a weird way. And, you know, it got like a couple good moments where they were able to do some funny things with like Pat Patterson won the title and then Gerald Briscoe beat him. So it's like, look at that. Like Patterson was able to do some of the Gaga and, you know, have a little title reign with that. And,
I just want to say, Medusa wanted to trash this belt like 2 years ago, and I think we could have just let her.
July 2019. So only 2 months after they had created this belt, they were already doing the I want to throw it in the trash or whatever reference. And then Ted DiBiase bought it from her, which is fun too, because it's like, that's what you should have done with this, is more, hey, this thing, it was funny that we did this with a belt, and let's do something funny around it. You did callback jokes, you know?
I think it's a shame that the cast of SNL did not do a bit where they all won the 24/7 title.
That's one of the biggest missed opportunities.
The amount of press you could get today, if you think about Pete Davidson would have been 24/7 champion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Keenan Thompson.
Lauren fucking Michaels should have won it.
Lauren Michaels,
and it could have been like, he could have said like, oh, maybe I'll challenge Vince McMahon or something. You know, like they had people. They had people who could have made a really good gimmick out of this. Like Bo Dallas didn't do anything with this, and it's like, that motherfucker could have had a lot of fun with that. Instead, you go with like
you went with Reggie for like way too long.
The Reggie shit went on forever, and yeah. So it's, I mean, I like seeing things like, you know, Mike Rome gets a fucking title because he's just like, I think I'm going to roll up real fast. Those
Corey
things,
Graves got the title. I enjoyed that.
That is the stuff that they should have done more of. And they settled into this thing with this stupid love story with Reggie and all. And that was like the ultimate end death knell. It had been terrible beforehand. Let's not act like the Drake Maverick stuff was all fucking funny. It was, a lot of it was really bad, really.
Drake Maverick is a very funny individual.
I really like Drake Maverick, but I didn't. the story was kind of like however many weeks too long, but it's an unceremonious end for an unceremonious title, and already people are going, this means they're going to bring back the hardcore title, and no, they're not. They're not doing that. Relax.
I'm not going to say no to that, because you do not know it. 2022, you do not know with anything.
To be fair, that's true. But who would have thought that still is not the most controversial thing that happened as far as the title on this episode of Monday Night Raw? Because instead, Austin Theory gets involved in an open challenge. Seth Rollins puts out an open challenge for the United States Championship, a very babyface move. And Mustafa Ali, a very babyface superstar, says, I'm going to go for the belt. And oh, fuck, Bobby Lashley just attacked me. And Lashley says, yeah, fuck that guy. I'm going for the title. And proceeds to beat the crap out of Seth Rollins and not go for the fucking title. Okay. And Austin Theory comes out and decides, I'm going to use my Money in the Bank briefcase, my guaranteed title shot for the World Championship, if I want to do it at any given moment, to answer the open challenge for the United States title. And he loses. I've written 2 articles about this already, so I'm going to repeat some of the things if anybody read the EWN and the Bleach Report article, but the long and short of it, from my opinion, is this. I've said before, I don't mind the idea of the Money in the Bank briefcase being for any championship, because I think that is a little bit of a, technically speaking, you've said you can fight for any title. And if you could do it in a fun way, I think it's justified, and it could boost something. Like if, for instance, Sheamus has gone on record multiple times now and said, man, I really want to win that Intercontinental Championship. It's the only title that has separated me from this Grand Slam title. That could be a hell of a boost for that Intercontinental title. If you were to have that Money in the Bank briefcase on Sheamus and he's like, you don't understand. That means more to me than winning another world title that's not going to change what my status is on WWE's history books. I'm going to win the Intercontinental title. I'm, bringing this extra pride to that belt and all that. I think that could be something that could work. So when people are criticizing this and saying, why would he go for the United States title? I think this is one of those like, okay, it could work.
You're wrong.
It just didn't, because of all the other elements that goes along with this. Because Austin Theory was United States champion, and for him to just want to stay plateaued is not a good thing for the Money in the Bank briefcase or for Austin Theory at all. That's completely the wrong way of approaching that. And I think you're like, oh, you're wrong. I think that speaks to a different thing where, don't we do the argument where we say, well, couldn't the tag team titles main event a pay-per-view for AEW? Any championship could be positioned in a good enough spot where that could work.
Absolutely.
So I think that you could have done it, but there's 7 levels of fucking what the hell? Like, it's an open challenge, motherfucker. Why are you using your briefcase?
This is so fucking dumb on every single possible conceivable level, I think. And it's nothing to do with the fact that you couldn't use the briefcase to challenge for a title, but let's look at every single thing why this is stupid, well, at least from my perspective. 1, Austin Theory has already been United States champion.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not saying that he can't necessarily win the title again, because presumably if you're United States title, you're making more money and you've got more prestige behind you. So maybe he wants to win it again, but he's already won that, and he's already shown inclinations that he wants to win the world championship, because he's constantly tried to go after Roman Reigns in other scenarios. So there's that aspect to it. 2, United States title opportunities are handed out like candy on Raw. You can basically just grab one whenever you seemingly feel like it. He has had opportunities. He wrestled Seth a couple of weeks ago. I don't think that wasn't for the title, but he could. But as I say, Seth just handed out an open challenge, and he's not the first guy who's been United States champion handed out those sort of opportunities. So you could easily just get a title shot at any point in time. Next, you had Bobby Lashley take out Mustafa Ali in a very funny segment where he just throws him across a box. But it makes Ali look bad. It makes Lashley look like a badass. But then Lashley then comes down to the ring saying that he wants his title back, and then just proceeds to beat the shit out of Rollins and not get his title at all, and just get himself not even disqualified, but doesn't even get to a point where the match even starts.
Mm-hmm.
So
defies logic on 3 different levels. Yeah.
Then you have Austin Theory failed to cash in despite having a competitive match with Seth Rollins, and then you have him lose the cash in due to Bobby Lashley, the guy that took out Seth in the first place, interfering and costing Austin Theory the match by beating him up and letting Seth get the victory. And then Lashley cuts a promo, I think it was like a digital exclusive promo, saying that the reason why he went after Seth Rollins, reason why he interfered and cost Austin Theory the match is because he wants the United States title. Well, you could have just taken it, motherfucker, because he was offering you an open challenge for it. You could have just beat him last time,
didn't you?
Yeah. And the biggest thing, which I haven't heard anybody talking about, but I feel like this is like the most wide ramifications, at least from my perspective. This turns Seth Rollins babyface, or at least it's given the indication that it's turning Seth Rollins babyface.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Rhodes is on the injured list,
right?
And he got taken out by Seth Rollins by having him beat his torn pectoral muscles up with a sledgehammer, and you're turning Seth Rollins babyface?
Because that's the most obvious thing that they could have done going forward, which is when Cody's ready to come back, he beats him for the United States Championship, or just beats him if he's not holding the title, because it's like, all right, fucker, I'm going to get you back for that. I think that they might be hoping that they move on and forget about it or whatever.
This is the one time, potentially, that I'm going to say this, or I hope it's the one and only time that I'm ever going to say this. Vince would have booked this better.
I think it kind of would have, yeah. Because maybe if Vince had a bad idea in mind of what to do with Theory with Money in the Bank. We're not going to know. He wasn't really booking him in any particularly great way because of the Roman Reigns situation. And I know a lot of people are trying to jump through hoops here to justify this and go, well, you had to take the briefcase off of Theory. So you had to do it at some point. And that's my other part is, did you have to? He's got 7 months left that he could have done something. You don't know if Roman Reigns is going to get injured. Or look at what happened with Mr. Kennedy. They seemed like they wanted to go in the direction of he's going to cash in at WrestleMania. And then you had the Undertaker thing and Kennedy is injured and you give it to Edge instead. Money in the Bank is such a good tool to bail you out if you ever have a problem like that, especially when you have a world champion that's holding both titles, and you would need to have some kind of a bailout like that, because you could always just have Roman Reigns be like, I really didn't fucking lose that belt. You just cashed in a weird fluke thing and all, and it preserves him and he doesn't have to drop it in some other way or just vacate the title or whatever. You could have had Theory lose to Roman Reigns, and it could have at least been in the service of boosting the guy that is above everybody else. And then you go, oh, I mean, of course he lost to Roman Reigns. That's not going to make Theory look bad. If Theory loses to John Cena, nobody goes, Theory's not the future man. He lost to John Cena. But if Theory loses to Shelton Benjamin, that he just talks crap about earlier in the night, then yeah, everybody goes, God, you're burying Theory. And if anybody says, oh, he beat Shelton Benjamin earlier in the night, that balances out. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Balance out what the fuck happened to him. He got his ass whooped.
He said, hey, Shelton, you're not worth shit right now. And then he beat him. So he downgraded him and beat a guy that's not worth anything, and then ended the night looking worse. So it's like Theory looks bad all across the board. Also looks bad because Seth Rollins got his ass kicked by Bobby Lashley, and Theory is cashing in and can't get the job done. I know that that's supposed to be a way to make Seth Rollins look like this, like uber, oh my God, he was able to fight back against the odds type thing. But even when you have the Bobby Lashley attack Austin Theory element, some people are trying to argue, well, I mean, Austin Theory wouldn't have lost whatever. That just means that he balanced it out because he had attacked Rollins. So Theory just lost a match to Rollins that he should have beaten him. And he looks like an idiot because of the cash in. that he didn't need to do for an open challenge. And then there is the stink of a lot of people are like, he couldn't even win the mid-card title too, and now that ruins Money in the Bank. This is like a slash and burn across the board. Theory looks worse. Money in the Bank looks worse. Rollins is babyface for some reason. That's going to hurt the Cody Rhodes thing. Bobby Lashley looks like an idiot because he didn't even go for the belt that he said he's going for. And Mustafa Ali gets tossed around backstage like he's a fucking ragdoll. Nobody came out of this looking better.
Oh, Rollins did. And I think there's something to that.
I guess Rollins, yeah.
But yeah, it's just so nonsensical. Like, I can totally understand that Triple H, I honestly doesn't see it in theory, but like doesn't think that he should be Mr. Money in the Bank at this point in his career. Like, he's not going to win the world title
until at least Roman drops it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's multiple ways you could do it. You could have him hold the briefcase for a little while longer and have him drop it to someone that you more convinced. Like, I'm just putting it out there, for Rollins. I'll put it out there just for my own headcanon. Sami Zayn wins the briefcase.
Right.
And he does it under the pretense that he's keeping the briefcase in the bloodline so nobody can challenge Roman Reigns. And
then you've got the tension of him being like, at any point he could pull that trigger. So they know that they got to placate his ego a little bit and be like, no, you're an honorary use. You never would do that to us. Right, pal?
Yeah, exactly. And that could be a really interesting story of that. You could give it to someone like Kevin Owens, because then you'd have Kevin Owens trying to cash in, and Sammy's now in a predicament of like his former best friend is now holding the briefcase, but he's got a family now to protect, and that guy holds the title. So there could be that aspect. There's loads of other guys that you could just give the briefcase to, and like have Theory just lose a match. You could have Theory. What I've heard was like an interesting story is like you could have Theory be the first guy to run out of time to cash in the briefcase. Him getting down to the last few weeks where he's trying to cash in on every champion, and he's trying to just do anything possible to try and win the title. But every time it gets interrupted, every time it gets screwed up, right until the very end. And so, like, that could be an interesting dynamic. This is such a cop-out way of doing it just to... I mean, if the objective was to just get people talking, then it succeeded. But, again, it's just another example, at least like what's been happening in the last few years now, of Money in the Bank for the men being... Well, the pattern is the women cash in on the first night they win the briefcase, and the men's cash-ins have been let down since Rollins cashed in, really. That's probably the last good cash-in. Well, last great cash-in. There's been some good ones, but that was the last like great, memorable cash-in. And that was like nearly 10 years ago. And then you get onto like the whole... Yeah, I mean, maybe they're bringing Money Back Briefcase back at WrestleMania, but realistically, they need to rehab this whole title, this whole briefcase, and making it seem like it's worth a damn going forward. And also, you just have to think about, well, what does this mean for Theory? Because as you say, it feels like a bit of a burial for him. And they're going to tell the story. Oh, they'll just tell the story of him like going into a bit of a spiral because of this loss, and it's how he comes back from it that will make him as a character. So, well. Did that happen with Baron Corbin?
Right. Did it happen with Otis?
Remember. So I'm like,
Otis lost that and never came anywhere close back to that ring.
Otis isn't canon. I didn't really have him.
But I know, again, some people seem to worship the ground that he walks on at this point in time, but there's been nothing from Triple H's booking that gives me the faith that he's going to rehab Austin Theory. The fact of the matter is, he's just treated Austin Theory like a mid-carder, which is what I guess he kind of is, but he loses most of his matches. He's lost most of his matches since he became Mr. Money in the Bank. And so I don't think that there's any indication that Triple H sees a long-term vision of him, but at least for the here and now, he doesn't seem to be one of his priority players. And I guess...
Like you said about the idea of like, okay, well, rehab him going forward, maybe there's something. Based off of the way that they've been doing things and all, I'm nervous that their game plan is basically, but next week, Austin Theory will beat the crap out of Seth Rollins and be mad about it. It's like, that doesn't compensate. That's not an equal, you know what? And then I hit my finisher on you. Motherfucker, you just lost Money in the Bank. You lost your world title, your almost guaranteed world title. one grudge feud, even if he beats Seth Rollins and wins that United States title, the only thing people are going to say is, oh, so he's back to the way that he was before WrestleMania started.
And that's why I think everything that they did here was one of the worst things I've ever seen in the since I've been covering wrestling for a living. So since 2018, this is one of the most incompetent things I've ever seen. And I was talking to Tony, and Tony was okay with the idea of, well, okay, if he wins, at least like you establish the precedent of Money in the Bank being able to use for any belt. Here's why I don't like that idea, just real quick. They have already established this briefcase as a get out of jail free card. The last thing you want is for them to decide that, oh, well, we don't really care about insert name anymore. He can just cash in for his 4th IC title. That's why I don't like that. That's not worth it. Everything that you guys said, dead on. I get Lashley not getting the chance to throw Rollins in the ring because security backed him up, but still, dead on, and this made Theory look awful. Mm-hmm. You can make the argument that maybe they're looking at it like, hey, you can use this in storyline, like now you're full of piss and vinegar, like Triple H was when he was supposed to win King of the Ring in 96 and didn't get it. Maybe, but we're not there yet.
And that is also a thing that they could have done much better too, if that's their game plan, was he's going to be mad at like management in some way, because no management thing had anything to do with this. It was just
you could mistake. Though, because he was the last guy on screen with Vince McMahon.
But that's where I think if you wanted to go in that direction, I think that this is a much better way of doing it. You go with Theory. I don't like the idea of Money in the Bank happening at WrestleMania, but if they're planning on doing it, it gets announced and they go, hey, Money in the Bank is going to be at WrestleMania. Theory, by the way, you have to cash in before that. And he goes, no, that's bullshit. I won Money in the Bank at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. That was in June or July. I forget exactly when it was. Or even May. I won it then. My contract says that I have a full year to cash in. And then Adam Pearce or Triple H, ideally Triple H in this scenario, goes, well, technically speaking, the contract says you have until the next Money in the Bank to cash in. And then you start telling that story of the running out of time thing where Theory's like, what the hell? I thought I had like an extra 2 months to cash in on this. Now I got to cash in by the night 2 of WrestleMania because night 1 is going to be the women's Money in the Bank. And you could even have him potentially try to cash in at Money in the Bank, WrestleMania night 1 to be like the night before. And when it comes to Money in the Bank at WrestleMania on night 2, they go, time's up. You ran out of time. And he goes, this is ridiculous. Of course I couldn't do that. Roman Reigns wasn't here on night 1. Who would I have cashed in on? Whatever. And they go, tell you what, your compensation is you're inserted in the Money in the Bank match. You want to win it again? And then he loses.
No,
and then he feuds with the person who won Money in the Bank, and he goes, I shouldn't even have had that taken away from me. Motherfucker, you shouldn't, whatever. That's a way to do that, and then he's mad at management.
No, see, that's far too... It's a good story, but it's far too convoluted for their style of storytelling. I don't hate the fact that you wanted to get the briefcase off of Theory. That is fine. Here's my fucking problem that no one has said except for me to Tony after it happened. Why didn't you have this motherfucker say, I'm going to Saudi and I'm going to take advantage of the fact that Logan Paul has had 2 matches and I'm just going to pin Logan Paul. And then Roman beats the fuck out of him and he pins Austin Theory. Logan doesn't lose. Theory loses. Roman walks out of Saudi as champion. There you go. That's so much easier than all of this convoluted bullshit. For what? Okay, Rollins is a babyface. That's not going to matter for the Cody shit because he can always just turn heel again in a couple months. Or maybe they just say, hey, Cody's going to go fight Roman now. Because again, Rock ain't set in stone. No pun intended.
Well, they could have just made Seth Rollins babyface by having him with Bobby Lashley and all that. And Austin Theory could have not been a part of this whatsoever, and it still could have had him turn face. Theory was not an essential element to Rollins turning babyface here.
Yeah, but it added to it, and I don't I'm saying I don't think that that's the worst takeaway from this. I just can't believe that you had this guy show up on NXT. You could have done it that way. Okay, that's the first time ever. Now you're establishing NXT as a precedent, which is okay. But you had him cash in for a mid-card title, which you already know they're going to use again down the line when they run out of hope in Carmelo Hayes or Von Wagner or whomever the fuck. I hate everything they did here. They established the worst kind of precedent. All of this is wrong. The end.
And that's some people are going to try to make the argument. Well, let's wait until see what it plays out. But it's like, I don't have a whole lot of faith that this was the right direction, and that we're not going to look back on this and they're not going to go, I probably should have done something different. Maybe there is a plan.
It just reeked of desperation. It just reeked of, we really don't want you to have the briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the last stink of Vince. So we're just going to get it off of you for now. Don't worry. We have an idea for you. You're not dead, but we need this briefcase off of you.
It feels very Russo to me. Bro, wouldn't it be interesting if all these crazy things happen? Like, okay. Yeah, maybe. But I mean, it is, people are talking, but that's not, talking for the sake of it is not the way you should be going about things. You should kind of be trying to get good buzz, not just buzz.
I think easily the worst cash-in ever, and that includes Sandow, because at least Sandow got beat by John Cena when John Cena was untouchable.
Yeah.
This was just, hey, Theory, you ain't winning this shit with a pedigree. You ain't gonna get advantage of Lashley's beatdown. This was just Theory. We're going to rehab you now in our image, which is fine. It just sucks that the Money in the Bank was a casualty of this.
Yeah, I hope that they rehab him. I hope that they rehab Money in the Bank. We'll see. And we'll see what happens on SmackDown tonight and everything too with the World Cup and all. But those are the hot tags of the week. And we'll continue on and talk about how they follow this up next week at the hot tags. We will have our main events for you of the Full Gear predictions and eventually a post show happening on next Saturday. Saturday, right? Yeah, Saturday. And in the meantime, tell us what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're listening to this on the audio only platforms, send a tweet at SmarkOutMoment or put something on Facebook or shout into the abyss and see if it shouts back at you. And continue on with all the other things that you normally do, like hitting the like button and all, and make sure that if you are going follow crazy and liking different accounts and stuff, that you go to amangotree.com and see all the different links that are there. SmarkOutMoment.com, fanboysanonymous.com. I didn't bother to do a review point of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Instead, I just added it to my recurring list of how I'm ranking all the MCU projects, and it's good. Thumbs up.
Say thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, it's a good one. Not the best. Not as good as the first, but it's in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness range. I think it's the one above that, or two above that. I forget if I put it above or below that versus She-Hulk. But it's in the same range. I liked it, so I recommend checking that out. And if you want more fanboy stuff, you know how to prompt that from the Patreon and all. If you want more out of me in any other thing, if you want more random tweets or something, you can follow me all over the place. It's the same links that you can see there at Tony Mango. And make sure that you follow Rob and Callum. Hit them with your links. Rob?
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. There is a link tree that I will get a nice little URL for. And it's got all of my links, all of my writing on Fightful, WrestleZone, my Twitch, the eventual DudeFelice.com, which is coming. I did share a preview with Tony. I am very excited about all things coming. 2023 should be a good one. But for now, I turn you over to Callum Wiggins.
So you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. You can check out smarkamoment.com for all the weekly articles, but make a beeline for the power rankings every single Saturday, where I'm ranking the WWE superstars from 1 to 10
Is Theory in the 10?
I'm gonna have to make a special one of absolute worst person of the week is Austin Theory, but no, I assume he won't be on there. Maybe some of the people involved in that segment will be. Who knows? But check that out. Check out the Fantasy League as well. I don't know if I have to dock points of Theory for that as well, but he's on my team, so I guess not. And but yeah, check out the Fantasy League and see who's picking up points every single week and who's able to keep scaling to the top of the mountain as we head towards WrestleMania.
What are we going to do when it comes to the Crown Jewel stuff?
The
predictions.
Yeah, so that was a bit of an oversight on my part, primarily due to the fact that was a busy weekend for me.
Yeah, you're moving everything.
Yeah, that I completely forgot about getting final predictions for everything, and so I think the most sensible thing is that we just ignore that because it's a Saudi show, and I prefer we ignore it anyway. And
we're not going to ignore the only Roman Reigns title defense I have. All the points go to me.
No, the prediction side of it, you mean?
You'll still get the point. You'll still get the points for Roman winning the thing. It's just a case of no one will have any bonuses between.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, the prediction wise and the that thing, because we didn't settle on who's gonna time the main event and all.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially that's on pause. Everyone is just getting equal number of points now for the remainder of this month, and then it will restart Survivor Series, and we'll pick up like bits as usual. It's just been Crown Jewel came up at a bad time, and there's never a good time for Crown Jewel, but it was a particularly bad time for me this past weekend.
Yeah, so that's all. WWEFantasyLeague.com updates on that coming in the future, as well as more podcasts that we hopefully you guys will be enjoying. But in the meantime, tell us that you like this one by hitting the like button, and we will see you next time, everyone. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.